The American Revolutionary War brings certain names to mind. George Washington, Paul Revere, Benjamin Franklin, Deborah Sampson.
Who?
You haven't heard of Deborah Sampson? You're not alone. She wasn't a war hero or a leader of our country. She didn't make it into our history books in school, and she's not incredibly famous, but she was there. This is the amazing story of Deborah Sampson, the woman who snuck into the army and fought in the Revolutionary War.
Deborah Sampson was born on December 17th of 1760 in Plimpton, Massachusetts. Her parents were extremely poor, and Deborah was one of 7 children. At some point in their childhood, Deborah and her brothers and sisters were told their father had died in a shipwreck. He'd actually abandoned his family some time before. Unable to care for her children, Deborah's mother was forced to place them in homes of friends and relatives. Deborah lived at first with an elderly widow of a preacher. It is believed Deborah may have been taught to read using the Bible at this time.
After the widow's death, she went to live as an indentured servant to the Jeremiah Thomas family. She was there from 1770 until 1778. While there, she was able to obtain some education when the Thomas sons shared their lessons with her. By the time she was released from servitude in 1778, at age 18, she had learned enough to teach school in the summers of 1779 and 1780. She was able to find work as a weaver, and part or all of her pay probably included room and board with the families that hired her services. Apparently, she had also learned woodworking along the way and produced everything from milking stools to thread spools. She was able to sell some of the items she made. It was said she was very tall for a woman in those days and quite plain. She also obviously was creative and had a thirst for knowledge. All these traits would come in handy in her upcoming adventures.
Sometime between 1780 and 1781, Deborah Sampson decided to enlist as a soldier in the Continental Army. She may have needed the money, she may have felt it was her patriotic duty, or she may have done it to help someone out. In those days, you could hire someone to take your place for military service, if you had the funds to do it. Some towns would also offer money for substitutes when they couldn't send enough men to meet their quota. Whatever the reason, Deborah Sampson dressed up as a man, which was against the law at that time in Massachusetts, by the way, and tried to enlist.
A man named Abner Weston wrote 3 diaries covering his experiences in the Revolution. 2 of the diaries have been in the National Archives. The 3rd was found and purchased in 2018 by the Museum of American Revolution in Philadelphia. Abner Weston was from the same town as Deborah Sampson, and in January of 1782 he wrote that she was hired by another man from their town to serve in the army for 3 years. When she wasn't accepted for service, the diary says she returned the payment and paid damages as well.
She also got herself excommunicated from the local Baptist church. The reasons given seemed to be her behavior, which they called unchristian and loose, and her dressing in men's clothing and trying to enlist.
Neither of these experiences stopped Deborah. In May of 1782, she once again bound herself up, put on men's clothes, and enlisted. She called herself Robert Shurtleff or Shurtleff, and some say this is the name of one of her brothers who had died years before. This time around, she enlisted in the Light Infantry Unit of the 4th Massachusetts Regiment, an elite unit made up of specially chosen men who were taller and stronger than average. Deborah, at about 5'9", was taller than most men at that time, who averaged around 5'6" to 5'8".
She fought in a battle near Tarrytown, New York on July 3, 1782, where she was shot twice in the thigh and received a head wound. Afraid she would be discovered as a woman, she refused medical attention at first, but then was taken to the hospital. Her head wound was treated, but she snuck away before her leg was treated. She removed one of the musket balls herself with a penknife, but the second was too deep. She sewed it up herself with a sewing needle, and the second musket ball stayed in her leg for the rest of her life.
Then, in 1783, she was sent to Philadelphia under General John Patterson. During that summer, she developed a fever and was so ill she was taken to the hospital. A doctor named Barnabas Binney removed her clothing and discovered the cloth strips she used to bind her chest. I don't know if Deborah asked the doctor not to reveal her secret, or if he decided not to report her on his own, but he took Deborah to his home where she was cared for by his wife and his daughters.
On September 3rd of 1783, the Treaty of Paris ended the Revolutionary War. A short time later, Dr. Binney asked Deborah to deliver a note he had written to her commanding officer, General Patterson. The note told Robert Shurtleff's secret. He was really Deborah Sampson. Instead of being reprimanded, as a woman who were discovered pretending to be men in the army usually were, General Patterson gave Robert Shurtleff an honorable discharge. Deborah had served from May 20th, 1782 to October 25th, 1783.
In 1785, Deborah Sampson married Benjamin Gannett. He was a farmer, and they lived on his father's farm in SHARON, Massachusetts. Deborah and Benjamin had 3 children, and they took in another child who was an orphan. The farm was small and the family was poor. In 1792, Deborah petitioned for the pay she had never received for her service in the army. The petition was signed by Massachusetts Governor John Hancock.
Deborah began speaking about her experiences and met Herman Mann, a newspaper publisher interested in her story. He helped write her memoirs called The Female Review, or Memoirs of an American Young Lady, Deborah Sampson, whose life and character are particularly distinguished. Being a Continental soldier for nearly 3 years in the late American War, published in 1797. Deborah went on to tour, putting on a spectacular show where she would speak dressed as a woman at first, then changed into a uniform and perform military drills and ceremonial maneuvers.
By 1804, Deborah was not in good health, and even the success of the book and the tour was falling into debt. She wrote her friend Paul Revere asking for his help in securing a pension from the military. A pension for a woman had never been granted, or even requested at that time. Revere wrote to Congressman William Eustis of Massachusetts and explained her situation and her reputation. In 1805, a monthly pension was granted, and she was listed on the Massachusetts Invalid Roll. In 1821, she would be given a general service pension as well. Deborah Sampson is the only woman ever to receive a full military pension for service in the Revolutionary War.
Deborah Sampson died of yellow fever in April of 1827. She was 66 years old. She was buried in Rock Ridge Cemetery in Sharon, Massachusetts. And although you won't read about her in many school history books, and she isn't particularly famous, she would probably be quite proud to know she has not been forgotten. The town of Sharon is proud of Deborah Sampson. There is a park named after her and a statue in front of the public library.
Although the Deborah Sampson Gannett house, the farm she lived at and worked with her husband, is privately owned and not open to the public, the historic home and farmland are protected. During World War II, the SS Deborah Gannett was named for her, and the town flag of Plimpton, where Deborah Gannett was born, declares her the official heroine of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
If you enjoyed this video and learned some more about Deborah Sampson, please take a look at some of our other history videos. Thank you for watching.